I think it's absolutely about thinking outside the box. Like I say, I've been involved in the running of 3 different community radio stations. I've helped establish and set up a further 3 stations over the last couple of years. The funding that's been attracted to those radio stations, none of the money has actually paid for radio to take place, and that's the approach we've always come from. Funding pays for training, it pays for skills development, it pays for community cohesion, and if you can attract funding and write it a way that that's actually your target, radio kind of becomes the conduit in a way, if you like. It's the medium that you use to achieve those targets. So it's quite strange when you sort of speak to a lot of stations about what a poor kind of situation the whole funding sector is in at the moment, how little funding is actually out there. They're right, funding is in a very poor state at the moment, there's not much of it around, but if you can be creative, there is funding available. There's a project which I got some money for recently. It was to do some work with the British Heart Foundation and with Preston FM in Preston, and we put together a project where it was actually about creating a series of short stories around people that have suffered from cardiac disease, how they've changed their life, how they've moved forward and how it affected their family. Now the stories that we've created are perfect radio content and they are going to be broadcast on the radio station. However, that's almost a kind of afterthought in terms of what the funding is. What they've paid for is for a group of people to work together and understand more about cardiac disease, to educate themselves about the issues and the kind of dangers and how people can prevent that sort of thing from happening to them. The product is we've produced a series of short stories which are going to go on the internet. They'll be distributed via social media. They will be broadcast on the radio station. So while we are producing radio content, it's probably the smallest part of the bid, if you like, and that's always my recommendation with funding, is find the funding pot, think about how you might use it towards a radio station, but it has to pay for something else. Funders like to pay for training, funders like to pay for material to be produced that has a use, that can be disseminated for other people to use. It's quite weird for someone who's sort of in my position who works in this sector, but I almost understand and appreciate why funders wouldn't pay for a radio station. You hold 2 charities up against each other. If you've got a women's refuge who works with women who've suffered years of domestic violence versus a radio station where people get to come and play their favourite music and talk about issues that matter to them, it's kind of a no-brainer which one would, maybe which one will get the funding. Whether it would or should is a different matter, but it's a much more attractive proposition. Those people are actually making a real difference in the short term to people. Now, community radio makes a huge difference to people. It can have a massive impact on people's lives, but it's almost through the kind of softer outcomes rather than that sort of hard, fast intervention. So it makes complete sense. So I think if someone is going to apply for funding, it is being creative about how you apply. It's thinking about how can you benefit people through the training, and if that enables a radio station to exist, fantastic, but I think it's going to be very difficult to find many funders that would fund a radio station.